The doctor's face told me everything before she even opened her mouth. I've gotten good at reading people's expressions over the years. You develop that skill when you grow up walking on eggshells. My name is Valentina, and I just found out I might die because my body is attacking itself. Funny how life works sometimes. The tests show an aggressive form of lupus, Dr. Marshall said, her voice gentle but firm. Without immediate treatment, your organs could start failing within months. I'm sorry, but we need to start therapy right away. I nodded, numb. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as she explained treatment options, costs, and survival rates. I barely heard her. All I could think about was the family medical fund, the one my parents had set up for emergencies only after my grandmother passed away last year. How much? I finally managed to ask. She named a figure that made my stomach drop. But the fund should cover it. It had to. When I got home, Claire was sprawled across our parents' imported leather couch, phone held above her face as she recorded herself. And don't forget to smash that like button, besties. Your girl's got some major announcements coming up about the Italian influencer retreat. I waited until she finished before speaking. Is Mom home? I need to talk to everyone. Claire barely glanced up. They're in Dad's study, probably planning my travel logistics. She finally looked at me properly. God, you look awful. You should try that new filter I'm using. I found my parents exactly where Claire said. Mom was perched on Dad's desk, both of them hovering over a laptop. The hotel wants an additional deposit for Claire's suite, Mom was saying. But the views will be perfect for her content. Mom, Dad, I interrupted. I need to talk to you about something important. Dad barely looked up. Can it wait? We're finalizing Claire's retreat details. No, it can't. My voice cracked. I just came from the doctor. I have lupus. It's bad. I need to start treatment immediately. Mom's perfectly maintained eyebrows drew together. Oh, honey. Are you sure? You've always been prone to overreacting about health things. I have the test results right here. I pulled out the papers with shaking hands. Dr. Marshall says without treatment. Let me see those, Dad cut in, scanning the documents. These treatments are expensive. Have you looked into cheaper alternatives? That's why I'm here. The family medical fund should cover it. I can pay it back once. Mom and Dad exchanged a look that made my blood run cold. Sweetie, Mom started, we've had to make some adjustments to that fund. Claire's career is at a crucial point right now. This retreat could make her the next big thing. I stared at them. You used the emergency medical fund for Claire's influencer retreat? Now don't be dramatic, Dad said in that dismissive tone I knew too well. Claire needs to maintain a certain image. These opportunities don't come around often. As if summoned, Claire appeared in the doorway. Daddy, the retreat organizers need the final payment today. Oh, and I need new luggage for all the gifting suite items. I walked out. They didn't even notice. At the bank, the truth hit harder than the diagnosis. The fund was empty, every penny gone. I'm sorry, Ms. Carter, the teller said. The last withdrawal was made 3 days ago. Something about social media marketing expenses? I sat in my car in the parking lot, hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. My phone buzzed, a text from Claire. Don't be jealous just because I'm actually doing something with my life. You can't expect Mom and Dad to keep babying you forever. Another buzz. This time, an email notification. Urgent. Estate of Gianna Mason. Immediate attention required. I almost deleted it thinking it was spam, but something made me open it. Dear Ms. Valentina Carter, as per the final wishes of your grandmother, Gianna Mason, this letter serves as official notification that you have been named sole signatory and controller of the Mason Family Trust, effective immediately. This includes all associated accounts, properties, and investments currently supporting the Carter family estate. Please contact our office to arrange a private meeting regarding your grandmother's additional instructions. Regards, James Morton, estate attorney. I read it 3 times before it sank in. Then I started laughing, the kind of laugh that borders on crying. Grandma always said karma comes to those who wait. I just never expected her to be karma's delivery service. My phone buzzed again. Dad, probably about Claire's luggage budget. I turned off my phone and started the car. I had a meeting to schedule with Mr. Morton. Sometimes the best revenge isn't serving a cold dish. It's slowly turning off the heat and watching them realize they're freezing. The Mason Trust's office lobby hadn't changed since I was a kid. Same mahogany panels, same pretentious oil paintings, same leather chairs that squeaked when you sat down. But this time, I wasn't here to wait while Mom discussed family matters with the trustees. Val, is that really you? I turned to find Landon, my old next-door neighbor who'd spent summers teaching me chess while Claire practiced her pageant walks. He wore a suit now, but his eyes still had that same mischievous glint. You work here? I asked. Managing director of estate portfolios, he grinned. Come on, I'll walk you to Morton's office. We have a lot to catch up on. As we walked, a memory hit me. Claire's sweet 16 party. She'd demanded a white horse for her entrance. Remember when Claire made your parents rent that Lipizan stallion? Landon asked, as if reading my mind. Cost them what? 20 grand for a 2-hour rental? 30. The horse pooped on the lawn and she needed emergency landscaping before her photo shoot. We reached Morton's office, but Landon touched my arm before I could enter. I saw the trust transfer notice this morning. Your grandmother. She knew exactly what she was doing. Morton was already waiting, documents spread across his desk. Ms. Valentina, please sit down. Your grandmother left very specific instructions. He slid a folder toward me. Inside was a handwritten letter. My dearest Val, they never saw you clearly, but I did. The quiet one, the watchful one, the one who counts cards but pretends to lose at poker. You have more strength than all of them combined. Everything is yours now. Use it wisely. Love, Grandma Gianna. The trust controls everything, Morton explained. The house mortgage, your father's business loans, your mother's credit lines. Even Claire's influencer expenses are processed through subsidiary accounts. How much? I whispered. He named a figure that made me dizzy. You could buy the house right out from under them if you wanted, Landon added from the doorway. He hadn't left. My phone buzzed. Claire had posted a new Instagram story. Living my best life. Can't wait to show you besties my new summer wardrobe. Blessed that your family support. The caption read, Thank you, Daddy, for always believing in my dreams. Another memory surfaced. Me, at 17, clutching an acceptance letter from Yale. We can't afford 2 college tuitions, Dad had said. Claire needs to focus on her modeling career. I ended up at community college. Claire got a personal stylist. Show me everything, I told Morton. Every account, every transaction, every dependency. For the next hour, he walked me through it all. The trust was like a spider's web, with threads connecting to every aspect of my family's carefully curated lifestyle. Your grandmother added an interesting clause, Morton said, pointing to a paragraph. Any attempt to contest your control automatically triggers a complete freeze of all associated accounts. My phone buzzed again. Mom this time. Claire needs her retreat deposit today. Handle the transfer, will you? You're so good with boring money things. They didn't even know I'd been to the doctor. What's the process for initiating an audit? I asked Morton. He raised an eyebrow. Simple enough, though it would temporarily suspend all automatic payments while accounts are reviewed. Do it. Val, Landon said softly. Are you sure? They used my medical fund for Claire's Instagram career. My voice was steady, while I was sitting in a doctor's office being told I could die. Landon's expression hardened. I'll expedite the audit myself. I signed where Morton indicated. It felt like signing a declaration of war. Walking out, I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Dad. A text popped up. The bank's showing some issue with transfers. Fix it immediately. Claire's crying. Another memory. Me crying in the hospital at 12, scared and in pain from what would later be diagnosed as the first lupus flare. Mom was at Claire's dance recital. "You'll have to tough it out, sweetie. We can't miss Claire's solo." I typed back, "Sorry, in a meeting. I'm sure it's just a technical glitch." Landon walked me to my car. "The audit notification will hit their accounts in about an hour. Want to grab coffee and watch the fireworks?" I smiled, thinking of Claire's perfect Instagram feed, Dad's carefully maintained image, Mom's social status, all built on Grandma's money, all now under my control. "Can't," I said. "I have a medical appointment to schedule, but keep me posted?" He nodded, understanding in his eyes. "They never saw you coming, did they?" "No," I replied, starting my car. "They were too busy watching Claire." My phone started ringing again. Dad's name flashed on the screen. I hit decline and drove away. Dinner at my parents' house had always been a performance, but tonight's show was particularly entertaining. Mom's hand shook as she passed the salad bowl. Dad kept checking his phone under the table. And Claire? She hadn't touched her food, too busy texting her manager Marcus about the payment processing error. "I just don't understand," Mom said for the third time. "The accounts were fine yesterday." I speared a cherry tomato. "Maybe Mercury's in retrograde." "This isn't funny, Valentina," Dad snapped. "Claire's retreat deposit is due and nothing's going through. Even my golf club payment bounced." "Daddy," Claire whined, "Marcus says if we don't confirm payment by midnight, they'll give my spot to Kylie Matthews. She has half my followers." I took a sip of water, hiding my smile. "That sounds stressful." Mom set down her fork with a clang. "You know, Valentina, I've been thinking. Maybe you should see Dr. Peterson again." "The therapist? You've been off lately. First these dramatic health claims, now this strange attitude. Dr. Peterson helped with your attention-seeking phases before." I remembered Dr. Peterson, the therapist they'd sent me to after I'd tried telling our family friends about Claire stealing my college fund. "Making up stories," they'd called it. "I'm fine, Mom, but thanks for your concern about my health." Finally, Claire's phone chimed. Her face went pale. "Marcus says the retreat organizers are asking about my sponsorship verification. What does that even mean?" "It means they're checking if your engagement numbers are real," I explained helpfully. "Standard audit procedure." Dad's head snapped up. "Audit? Oh, didn't you get the notice? The Mason Trust is under review. Something about irregular spending patterns." I reached for the bread. "Pass the butter?" The silence was delicious. "How do you know about the trust?" Mom's voice had gone high and tight. "Grandma's lawyer called. Apparently there were some instructions in her will." Claire slammed her phone down. "This is ridiculous. I have 1 million followers waiting for my Italy content. I can't let Kylie Matthews take my spot." 1 million followers? I pulled out my phone. "That's weird. According to this analytics report Marcus just posted, you have about 300,000, and half of those look like bot accounts." "You're just jealous," Claire shrieked. "You've always been jealous because I'm actually successful while you waste your life being sick all the time." "Claire," Dad warned, but I cut him off. "You know what's funny? When I was diagnosed with lupus this week, you remember the dramatic health claims, I actually thought you might care. Stupid me, right?" Mom's wine glass froze halfway to her lips. "Diagnosed?" Stage 4 lupus. Could be fatal without treatment. But hey, at least Claire's getting her Instagram retreat, right? That's what emergency medical funds are for. Dad stood up so fast his chair fell backward. "What did you do?" I stood too, matching his stance. "I didn't do anything. Yet. But since you're asking, Grandma made me sole controller of the trust. Every penny you're spending, that's my signature you need now." Claire burst into tears. Not the pretty kind she used in her videos. The ugly, mascara-running kind. "Daddy, do something." "We'll call the lawyers," he threatened. "Your grandmother wasn't in her right mind." "Try it. The trust has an automatic freeze clause if contested. But you knew that, right? Since you read all the documents so carefully before spending my medical fund?" Mom reached for me. Sweetie, let's not be hasty. We can talk about this. Like we talked about Yale, or my first hospitalization, or every time Claire needed something and I needed to understand. My phone buzzed. A text from Landon. Second wave of audits hitting tomorrow. You sure about this? You're being hysterical, Mom said, using her therapy voice. This isn't like you. I laughed. Actually, this is exactly like me. You just never bothered to notice. Claire was frantically calling Marcus. Dad was already on the phone with his lawyer. Mom looked like she might faint. I grabbed my bag and headed for the door. Don't worry about dinner. I'm sure Claire can post about it on Instagram. #blessed family drama. #karma sabitch. Valentina, Dad's voice boomed. If you walk out that door, you'll what? Cut me off? Good luck with that. I paused in the doorway, looking back at their stunned faces. Oh, and Claire? Kylie Matthews says hi. We had coffee this morning. Lovely girl. Very interested in hearing about influencer fraud techniques. The door slammed behind me with a satisfying thud. Through the window, I could see Claire having a full meltdown, Mom reaching for her anxiety pills, and Dad turning an interesting shade of purple. I texted Landon back, absolutely sure. Send the auditors. Sometimes the best revenge is simply holding up a mirror and letting them see themselves clearly for the first time. Marcus called at 7 a.m., his usual smooth-talking voice tinged with desperation. Valentina, hey, long time no chat. Listen, about this audit situation. Hello, Marcus. Busy morning. I heard Beauty Blitz is reviewing their influencer partnerships. A pause. Look, I know you and Claire have your differences, but this retreat could really launch her career. Maybe we could discuss this over coffee? I checked my email. 3 new notifications from the Trust's audit team. Sorry, I have a medical appointment. Pesky autoimmune disease, you know how it is. Oh wait, you don't, because my family spent my treatment fund on your client's retreat. That's unfortunate, but surely we can work something out. Claire really values your relationship as sisters. Really? Is that why she's been live streaming about her toxic family drama for the past hour? Another pause. She's upset. You understand. Between us, I could make it worth your while to release the funds. I know people in the industry. You mean like the people at Social Boost who inflate follower counts? Or the ones who help hide sponsorship earnings from the IRS? The silence on his end was perfect. Interesting thing about audit trails, Marcus. They don't just follow the money, they follow the data too. Are you threatening me? I'm stating facts. Claire gave you access to her laptop last month, didn't she? The one with all the trust documents? Click. Call ended. I switched to Claire's live stream, where she was having a mascara-streaked meltdown. And my own sister is trying to ruin my career because she's like literally so jealous? I worked so hard for my followers. The comments were scrolling fast. Wait, aren't those Gucci bags fake? Didn't you say your dad owned that yacht? Your engagement rates look botted, TBH. My phone buzzed. Landon. Beauty Blitz pulled their contract. Wanna guess who sent them Claire's real analytics? I smiled, opening my laptop to check the trust accounts. Dad's golf club membership, suspended. Mom's personal shopper account, frozen. Claire's emergency credit card, declined at Gucci an hour ago. A notification popped up. Claire had started another live stream. I just want to be real with you guys. Yes, sometimes we use engagement tools to boost visibility. That's totally normal in the industry. And okay, maybe the yacht was borrowed, but the comments were brutal. You lied to us. Unfollowing, rich girl faker. My phone rang again. Dad. Whatever you're doing, stop it now. His voice shook with rage. Your mother can barely get out of bed. Claire's sponsors are pulling out. My business partners are asking questions. Questions like, why did you empty your daughter's medical fund for Instagram photos? Those kinds of questions. I am your father. And I'm your daughter, the one dying of lupus. Funny how that works. He switched tactics. We can figure out your medical situation, but if you destroy Claire's career, her career, I laughed. You mean her carefully curated lie? Tell me, Dad, does it bother you that you spent my entire college fund on Claire's fake life? You're being hysterical. There's that word again, hysterical. You know what's really hysterical? How quickly an influencer empire falls when someone looks at the real numbers. Claire's latest live stream had gone viral, for all the wrong reasons. Fake influencer was trending. My phone lit up with a text from Marcus. We need to talk. I have information you might want to hear. Then Mom, please stop this madness. We're family. Then Claire, I hate you, you're ruining everything. I turned off my phone and opened my grandmother's journal, found in her study after the will reading. The last entry caught my eye again. My dearest Val, they called you hysterical when you were just honest. They called you difficult when you were just hurt. They called you dramatic when you were dying. But I saw you counting cards at family poker nights, letting them think they were winning. You're not hysterical, my girl. You're strategic. And now it's your turn to deal the cards. My laptop chimed. An email from Beauty Blitz's legal team requesting all documentation of Claire's engagement manipulation. I attached the files Landon had helped me compile. Every fake follower purchase, every hidden sponsorship deal, every manipulated engagement rate. Send. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying someone's life, it's about removing the lies they built it on. My phone buzzed one final time. A reminder, first treatment session tomorrow. I'd be paying for it myself, with money from the trust that was supposed to fund Claire's fake Italian summer. Karma really does have a sense of humor. The door to my apartment burst open at 6 a.m. Mom stormed in like a designer-clad hurricane, her perfect makeup unable to hide the wild look in her eyes. "Fix this mess!" she shrieked, waving her phone. "Claire's lost half her followers. The country club is asking about our membership dues. Your father can't sleep." I calmly sipped my coffee. "How did you get in?" "I had a key made months ago, in case of emergencies." "Like this emergency?" I held up my medical papers. "Or just Claire emergencies?" She sank onto my couch, deflating slightly. "Your grandmother was senile. She couldn't have meant to give you this much power. You don't understand how these things work." "Actually, I do. Want to see the trust documents? The ones showing how you've been draining my medical fund for years?" "That money was for family emergencies." "I'm dying, Mom. That's not emergency enough?" She flinched. "Don't be dramatic. There are payment plans for medical things. Claire's career is time-sensitive." "Was time-sensitive," I corrected. "Beauty Blitz dropped her this morning. Apparently they don't like influencers who fake their numbers." Mom's face went pale. "You vindictive little—" My phone buzzed. "Landon, your father's lawyer just filed a petition to contest the trust. Want me to trigger the freeze?" "Do it," I texted back. Mom's phone chimed immediately. Her hands shook as she read the notification. "What did you do?" "I didn't do anything. Dad's lawyer did. By contesting the trust, he activated Grandma's automatic freeze clause. All accounts suspended pending review." "You can't do this to us. We're your family." "Family?" I stood up, fury finally breaking through my calm. Where was family when I needed my first treatment? Where was family when Claire stole my college fund? Where was family every time I was being dramatic about my symptoms? "I was protecting you. The world is harsh, Valentina. Claire needs to learn actions have consequences. So do you." A commotion in the hallway interrupted us. Dad burst in, followed by a man in an expensive suit. "There she is," Dad pointed at me. "Do it." The lawyer cleared his throat. "Ms. Valentina, I have here a petition claiming your grandmother was mentally unfit when—" I walked to my desk, pulled out a document, and held it up. "You mean this petition? The one you filed exactly 6 minutes ago?" Dad's face reddened. "How did you—" "I have friends at the court. Good ones. They fax things quickly." I handed the lawyer another document. "This is your copy of Grandma's last psychiatric evaluation, dated 1 week before the trust transfer. Completely sound mind. Verified by 3 separate doctors. The lawyer scanned it, his expression dropping. Mr. Carter, you didn't mention this. There's more, I added sweetly. Would you like to see the video Grandma recorded explaining her decision? Or the notarized letters from her entire medical team? Mom started crying. Not Claire's practiced Instagram tears, real, ugly sobs. You're destroying everything, Dad shouted. The business, Claire's future. No, I cut him off. You did that. When you decided my life was worth less than Claire's social media career. My phone buzzed again. A news alert. Rising influencer Claire Carter exposed for fake engagement scandal. Dad's lawyer quietly gathered his papers. I'll review these documents and be in touch. After he left, Mom tried one last time. Sweetie, please, we can work something out. Family counseling, maybe? I start chemotherapy tomorrow. Real treatment, not the bargain version you suggested. Paid for by the trust you tried to steal from me. I opened my door. Get out. You ungrateful, Dad began, but Mom grabbed his arm. We'll fix this, she said, as she dragged him out. You'll see reason eventually. After they left, I found Grandma's journal again. A page fell out. One I hadn't noticed before. Val, if you're reading this, they've probably called you ungrateful by now. Remember, gratitude is earned, not demanded. And power? Power is taken by those smart enough to wait for the right moment. I watched you grow up wearing a mask of submission while your mind stayed sharp as a razor. Now show them what you can do when the mask comes off. All my love, Grandma. My phone lit up. Landon again. Marcus is talking to reporters. Says he has dirt on the family. I smiled, thinking of the folder I'd compiled on Marcus's own financial fraud. The one I'd sent to his other clients this morning. Let him talk, I texted back. Some people need to learn the hard way that karma has perfect aim. I looked at my treatment schedule for tomorrow, then at the trust accounts I now controlled. Claire's retreat money would cover 3 months of therapy. Funny how things work out. The pieces fell into place during my first chemotherapy session. I was scrolling through emails when I noticed something odd. Login attempts to my trust account from an unfamiliar IP address. Your sister's boyfriend accessed your laptop last month, Landon said when I called him. Remember when Claire borrowed it to check her emails? Marcus. Of course. I pulled up the security logs while the chemo dripped into my veins. There it was. Multiple file transfers during the 15 minutes Claire had my laptop. He copied everything, I told Landon. Trust documents, account numbers, Grandma's letters. That explains how your father's lawyer knew where to look for leverage. Landon's voice hardened. Want me to handle it? No, I have a better idea. I hung up and opened Marcus's influencer management company website. Funny how people who hide secrets often have the most to lose themselves. 3 hours and 1 anonymous tip to the IRS later, Marcus's carefully constructed house of cards began to collapse. My phone buzzed with notifications. Breaking. Major influencer manager accused of tax fraud. Social media agency under investigation for affiliate scheme. Multiple influencers come forward about management scam. Claire called immediately. What did you do to Marcus? Me? Nothing. The IRS, however. He's not answering my calls. The retreat organizers want their deposit back, my sponsors are jumping ship, and now his company is under investigation? Karma's having a busy week. She hesitated. He said he had dirt on you, from your laptop. I know. Tell him thanks for that, by the way. It helped me figure out exactly where to point the auditors. Claire's voice cracked. I didn't know he was going to save it. You knew exactly what you were doing when you let him access my computer. A commotion erupted in the background of Claire's call. I heard Mom's voice. The bank is on the phone. Everything's frozen. I have to go, Claire said quickly. Mom's having some kind of breakdown. I ended the call and checked the news again. Marcus's company was trending, and not in a good way. Former clients were coming forward with stories of manipulation, hidden fees, and fraudulent brand deals. Landon texted, Marcus just tried to access the trust accounts again. Amateur. Block him permanently, I replied, and send everything to his other clients. My phone rang. Dad. For God's sake, he pleaded, keep the family name out of this scandal. Your mother can't take much more. Should have thought about scandals before you built Claire's career on fake numbers. We can make a deal, whatever you want. I laughed. I already have what I want, control. People are talking. Our reputation is exactly as real as Claire's follower count. He hung up. Seconds later, my phone exploded with notifications. Claire had gone live again. And I know people are saying things, but my numbers are totally real. Well, mostly real. I mean, everyone buys some followers, right? And okay, maybe some of the brand deals weren't exactly, but that's Marcus's fault. He handled everything. The comments were ruthless. Caught in 4K. Rich girl fake life exposed. This family drama is better than Netflix. A text from Landon. Your mom just tried to access her emergency credit line. Declined. Then breaking news. Luxury influencer Claire admits to fraud. Everyone does it. My nurse came to unhook my IV. All done for today. How are you feeling? Better than my family, I smiled. Outside the hospital, I checked my email one last time. A message from Marcus. We should talk. I have documents that could hurt you. I forwarded it to my lawyer with one line. Add witness tampering to the IRS report. My phone buzzed again. Mom had texted a single line. You've destroyed everything. No, I thought. I just showed everyone what was already broken. I drove past our family home on my way back to my apartment. Mom's precious imported roses were wilting. No gardener since the accounts froze. Dad's luxury car was missing from the driveway. Probably at the dealership, trying to sell it for quick cash. Claire's latest live stream was still going, but the tears looked real this time. And I don't know what I'm going to do. Marcus won't call back, my sponsors are gone, and my own sister. I turned it off and opened Grandma's journal instead. The truth isn't always pretty, Val, but it's always worth showing. Let them see themselves clearly, even if it hurts. My phone lit up with a final notification. Influencer Management Agency CEO Marcus steps down amid federal investigation. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just exposing lies, it's watching truth do the work for you. The foreclosure notice arrived on a Tuesday. I watched from my car as Mom crumpled against the front door, the official paper shaking in her manicured hands. Dad's business had finally collapsed under the weight of frozen assets and unpaid loans. My phone buzzed. Claire. Marcus ghosted me. I'm living in his apartment, but he's not answering calls. Please, I need help. I clicked ignore and opened my email. The foundation paperwork was ready. All it needed was my signature. The Gianna Mason Foundation for Autoimmune Research and Support, I read aloud, savoring each word. Landon's car pulled up beside mine. Ready for this? Almost. I watched as Dad arrived home, his once pristine suit wrinkled. He helped Mom up, both of them looking decades older than they had a month ago. They're selling the artwork, Landon reported, and Mom's designer bags still won't cover half their debts. My phone lit up with notifications. Claire had posted again. Life update, moving back home. Sometimes we have to be humble and restart. Blessed Hostasher growth. Your family first. The comments were merciless. Didn't your family lose everything? Back to reality check. Karma came collecting. She doesn't know they're being foreclosed, I told Landon. Should be an interesting homecoming. We drove to the foundation's new offices, formerly Grandma's estate building. The banner was ready to be unveiled, and reporters were gathering. Your family's here, Landon whispered as we walked in. They stood in the lobby, Mom, Dad, and Claire. They looked like extras from a tragedy play. Mom's roots showing through her expensive dye job, Dad's shoulders slumped, Claire's designer clothes wrinkled from living out of a suitcase. What is this? Dad demanded, but his voice lacked its usual authority. The future of Grandma's money, I said. The one you all thought you controlled. The foundation's director stepped forward. "We're ready for the announcement, Ms. Valentina." Claire grabbed my arm. "Please, I lost everything. My followers, my sponsors, my boyfriend. I had to move out of Marcus's place today. I need—" "What I needed?" I cut her off. "When I was dying and you took my medical fund for your fake influencer lifestyle? I didn't know about your condition, about Marcus stealing from your laptop, about any of it. But you knew about the medical fund. You all did." Mom stepped forward. "We can fix this. As a family." "Family?" I laughed. "Let me show you what family really means." I nodded to the director. The banner unfurled. "The Gianna Mason Foundation for Autoimmune Research and Support, providing hope and treatment for those failed by their support systems." Dad's face went ash white. "That money, all of it?" "Every penny that would have funded another year of Claire's fake life is now funding real treatment for people like me." I turned to the gathering crowd of reporters. People whose families chose appearances over survival. "You can't?" Dad started. "Actually, I can, and I did. Grandma made sure of that." The cameras started flashing as I stepped up to the podium. Mom sank into a chair. Claire stood frozen. And Dad finally looked at me. Really looked at me, maybe for the first time. "My name is Valentina," I began, facing the reporters. "And I'm here to tell you about medical discrimination, family betrayal, and how one woman's foresight is changing lives." The story poured out, all of it. The medical fund, the gaslighting, the years of being dismissed as dramatic while Claire was glorified. With each word, I watched my family shrink smaller. "The Foundation's first initiative," I concluded, "will provide full treatment funding for 50 patients with autoimmune conditions, paid for by what was once called the Claire Fund in my family's budget." The reporters erupted with questions. Through the chaos, I heard Claire's broken whisper. "I never meant. I didn't think." "That's the problem," I told her. "You never did." Security arrived to escort my family out. As they left, Mom turned back one last time. "We're still your family." "No," I said quietly. "You're my cautionary tale." Later, watching the news coverage with Landon, I felt strangely empty. Not sad, not triumphant, just free. "Your grandmother would be proud," he said, showing me the Foundation's website. Donation offers were already pouring in. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Saw the news. I have lupus too. Thank you for fighting back. You're not alone." Then another. And another. Messages from people like me, finally seeing their stories reflected back. I thought of Claire's empty Instagram feed, Dad's vacant office, Mom's unused credit cards. All the hollow things they'd chosen over me. "No," I replied to the text. "None of us are alone anymore. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's building something beautiful from the ruins they left behind." The last box from my parents' house sat unopened in Grandma's study, now my office at the Foundation. Through the window, I watched autumn leaves scatter across the courtyard, where construction workers were installing a new accessibility ramp. My phone buzzed. Claire had posted her first TikTok in weeks. My truth about family toxicity. The comments were disabled. "Ready for your treatment?" Landon asked from the doorway. "Almost. Just need to finish this." I opened the box. Inside lay childhood photos, report cards, and at the bottom, my old diary. The one Mom had called dramatic and attention-seeking. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. Sarah, our Foundation's first grant recipient, stood there with her IV pole. "Sorry to bother you," she said, "but I wanted to show you something." She held up her phone. Claire's TikTok was playing. And yes, I had everything, but I never saw what it cost others. My sister needed medical treatment while I was buying followers and faking brand deals. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking other influencers to check their privilege. "She's actually admitting it," Sarah said. "Your story helped me stand up to my own family about my lupus treatment." My phone rang. Mom, what do you want? I answered. I'm selling my wedding ring, she said quietly, for the foundation's donation drive. Keep it. We don't need. Please, she interrupted. Let me do one right thing. I hung up and opened my laptop. Dad had emailed, I found your old Yale acceptance letter while clearing out the house. I was wrong. About everything. The new apartment is small, but if you ever want to talk, delete. Your next treatment's scheduled, Landon reminded me. The clinical trial results are looking good. I picked up Grandma's journal one last time. A photo fell out, young me playing chess while Claire posed for cameras in the background. Ms. Valentina? My assistant poked her head in. The support group is waiting, and reporters want comments on Marcus's guilty plea. Tell them karma speaks for itself. Sarah smiled. That should be the foundation's motto. My phone lit up again. A text from Claire. Moving to Seattle. Starting over. For real this time. No filters. I didn't reply. Instead, I walked to the support group meeting room. 20 people with IV poles and tired eyes looked back at me. Real people. Real stories. No Instagram filters. Welcome, I said. Let's talk about being heard when everyone says you're just being dramatic. The session ran long. Nobody minded. These were people who understood what it meant to fight invisible battles while families looked away. Afterward, Landon found me in Grandma's study again. Your mother's ring sold at auction, he said. Enough to fund 3 more treatments. Add it to the general fund, I replied. No earmarks. And Claire's TikTok is trending. People are calling it a wake-up call for influencer culture. I finally opened my old diary. The first page read, Nobody believes me when I say I'm sick. Maybe I'm crazy like they say. You're not crazy, Sarah said from the doorway. None of us are. My phone buzzed one last time. Dad again. The house sells tomorrow. Found this in the attic. The attached photo showed a chess trophy. My first win. Claire's pageant crowns had always hidden it on the shelf. I closed the diary and faced my reflection in Grandma's old mirror. No more hiding. No more doubting. Ready for treatment? Landon asked again. Yes, I said. And after that we have grant applications to review. Sarah wheeled her IV pole closer. Can I help? Someone should represent the crazy dramatic ones. I laughed. Real laughter. Not the kind I used to practice to please my family. You know what Grandma would say? I picked up her chess set from the desk. Sometimes the quietest pieces on the board make the biggest moves. Your family? Landon asked carefully. Will you ever? They're learning what I learned, I said, setting up the chess pieces. Sometimes losing everything shows you what you really had. Sarah studied the board. Queen's opening? Always, I smiled. It's the piece everyone underestimates until it's too late. Outside, more leaves fell. More patients arrived. More stories waited to be heard. I moved my queen across the board. Sometimes winning isn't about the game you're playing. It's about changing the rules everyone took for granted. And sometimes the best endings aren't about forgiveness. They're about finding your own voice in the silence where apologies should have been. Checkmate.
Hi, I'm Christina. Let me tell you about the family I'm married into, the Andersons. Old money, a sprawling mansion in Connecticut, and more traditions than you can count. I work as a nurse at Hartford Hospital, and that's where I met their golden boy, Mark. He was in his residency when we clicked. Charming, sweet, and refreshingly different from his stuffy family. At least that's what I thought. Everything changed after the wedding. His mother, Eleanor, was the perfect mix of Cruella de Vil and Martha Stewart. She began showing her true colors immediately. Christina, dear, Anderson women don't work after marriage, she'd say, her tone dripping with condescension. Christina, honey, it's embarrassing to discuss hospital stories at dinner. My father-in-law, Richard, was no better. He'd sit in his study, nodding along in silence, puffing on one of his overpriced cigars. The only decent one was Claire, Mark's younger sister. She'd roll her eyes during Eleanor's lectures and shoot me sympathetic glances. One day, Claire whispered to me, they did the same thing to Mark's college girlfriend. Drove her out within months. But I wasn't going anywhere. I loved Mark, and he loved me, even if he had the infuriating habit of saying, "That's just how they are," whenever I pointed out his parents' appalling behavior. Then the pain started. At first, it was small, just faint twinges in my lower abdomen. Being a nurse, I knew something was wrong. But every time I brought up seeing a doctor, Eleanor would cut me off. Andersons handle things privately. We have our own family physician, she'd insist, referring to their ancient doctor who hadn't practiced in decades. When the pain hit hard, it nearly brought me to my knees. One evening during one of Eleanor's lavish parties, Claire noticed me gripping the counter. "You look pale," she said, worried. "I'm fine. I managed, but my legs were trembling." Mark stood across the room, deep in conversation with his father about hospital administration. Eleanor glided over, her pearls gleaming like a weapon. "Christina, compose yourself. The Whitmans just arrived," she hissed. That's when everything went black. The last thing I heard was Claire shouting my name and Eleanor whispering sharply, "Not in front of the guests." When I came to, I was in bed. The room spun as I tried to sit up. "We need to call an ambulance," I rasped. "Don't be dramatic," Eleanor's icy voice cut through. "Dr. Peterson will be here in the morning. He's handled all our medical situations for 30 years. Mark, my doctor husband, sat beside me, squeezing my hand weakly. "Mother's right," he said. "He treated my appendicitis when I was 12. I stared at him, disbelief battling with the pain that tore through my body. My husband, a man sworn to save lives, was siding with them. The betrayal was worse than the agony. "At least let me go to the hospital myself," I pleaded, fumbling for my phone. Eleanor snatched it away with surprising speed. "No hospitals, no outsiders. Family matters stay within these walls." Claire helped me to my room as the sounds of classical music and laughter drifted up from below. Once we were alone, she spilled everything. The Andersons had a sordid history of covering up medical emergencies to avoid scandal. Grandmother died because they waited too long. Cousin Sarah lost a kidney. Even my asthma was treated with herbal tea, she confessed, her voice trembling. "They're obsessed with appearances." She gestured to her father's study. "There's a whole room of medical records in there, every covered-up crisis, every hushed diagnosis." Suddenly, the pain spiked so sharply that I screamed. Mark burst in, his face torn. "Mother says Dr. Peterson will come first thing in the morning. She'll be dead by morning." Claire exploded. "Just like Grandma." As they argued, I discreetly reached for Claire's phone, my vision blurring. But I managed to dial 911. As the operator answered, I heard Eleanor's heels clicking ominously down the hallway. "Help," I whispered into the phone. "Hartford Hospital nurse. Medical emergency. Anderson Estate." The chaos that followed felt surreal. My colleagues at Hartford Hospital could barely believe their eyes when I was wheeled into the emergency room. Dr. Sarah Chen, my best friend from the cardiac unit, immediately took charge. "Ruptured appendix with severe peritonitis. We need her in surgery now," she barked. Mark stood frozen in the waiting room as the perfect Anderson family image crumbled around him. My coworkers, having seen too many cases of medical neglect, weren't about to stay quiet. Dr. Chen confronted Mark directly, her voice echoing across the ER. "She could have died. As a doctor, you should know better. 4 hours of documented refusal to seek medical care, and now your wife has sepsis because someone decided appearances mattered more than her life." When I woke up 2 days later, Claire was sitting vigil by my bedside, clutching a thick manila folder. Mark was slumped in a corner chair, looking like he'd aged a decade overnight. I broke into Daddy's study, Claire announced, her eyes blazing. "Every family medical incident for the past 40 years, Grammy's heart attack, Sarah's kidney failure, even your appendicitis, Mark. Everything they tried to hide." Mark finally stirred. "I never knew. I remember being sick, but Mother always said it wasn't that serious." "They gaslighted you your entire life," Claire snapped. "Made you think their way was normal. Well, guess what? Christina's medical team is building a case. Criminal negligence, medical endangerment. They've got it all documented." That's when Hurricane Eleanor burst into the room, Richard trailing behind her. "How dare you air our private matters," she hissed. I've already spoken to the hospital board about your staff's unprofessional behavior. Shut up, mother. Mark's voice was quiet but firm. The room froze. He'd never spoken to her like that before. I've read the files, seen the evidence. You nearly killed Christina, just like you almost killed me, just like you killed Grammy. It stops now. Eleanor's face turned purple with fury. Everything I did was to protect this family's reputation, you ungrateful. Protect? I interrupted, sitting up despite the pain. Anger gave me strength. You left Sarah with one kidney. You watched your mother die rather than call an ambulance. You made your own son think suffering was normal. Some protection. Claire smiled grimly. The board already has copies of everything. Turns out, they're not big fans of wealthy families covering up medical emergencies, especially when one of their nurses was nearly killed. Richard stepped forward, likely preparing some patriarchal defense, but Mark cut him off. Get out. All your precious society friends will know exactly what kind of family the Andersons really are. Every single detail. Eleanor backed toward the door, sputtering, while Mark took my hand. I'm so sorry, he whispered, but they'll never hurt anyone again. Claire smirked. And we're just getting started. The medical board hearing became the scandal of Hartford's elite social circle. Eleanor and Richard sat stiffly in their designer suits as doctor after doctor testified about the Andersons' pattern of medical neglect. Their precious reputation unraveled thread by thread. Dr. Chen didn't hold back. Not only did they deny care to their daughter-in-law, she said, but we've uncovered 17 separate incidents of medical emergencies hidden or improperly treated, 1 resulting in death, 3 in permanent disability. The Anderson family lawyer looked like he was having an aneurysm. He might as well have been trying to defend the indefensible. Claire's documentation was airtight, and my medical colleagues refused to mince words. Mark testified last. I was conditioned from childhood to accept this as normal. My medical training was constantly at war with their family traditions. But watching them nearly kill my wife, that opened my eyes to decades of abuse. Eleanor's perfectly composed mask finally cracked. We were protecting you, all of you. Protecting us? I shot back, standing despite the still healing incision. It cost Sarah her kidney, cost your mother her life, and almost cost me mine. And for what? So you could keep hosting your charity galas? The board's decision was unanimous. Eleanor and Richard were charged with criminal negligence and medical endangerment. Their social empire crumbled as former friends scrambled to distance themselves. The mysterious illnesses and deaths in the Anderson family were no longer a mystery, but I wasn't done. During my recovery, I started a support group for survivors of medical neglect and family abuse. You'd be shocked how many wealthy families cling to similar traditions. Claire became our star advocate, using her insider knowledge to help others break free. Mark sold his share of the family practice and opened a clinic in an underserved community. No one gets turned away, he promised. No one's emergency gets ignored. Last week, I recently spoke at a medical conference about recognizing signs of familial medical neglect. Claire tells me that Richard now spends his days alone in that massive house, all his so-called friends gone, surrounded only by the very medical records that exposed his empire. Karma has a sense of irony, doesn't it? As for me, I'm still a nurse, but now I specialize in helping abuse survivors navigate the healthcare system. Every time I help someone escape a situation like mine, I think about that night I collapsed on their pristine Persian rug. Sometimes the best revenge isn't retribution, it's ensuring no one else suffers the same fate. That concludes Christina's shocking story about the dark underbelly of the prestigious Anderson family. But let's take a moment to reflect. Imagine being in a life-or-death situation like Christina's, where your spouse, a medical professional sworn to save lives, chose family reputation over your survival. What would be your breaking point? Could you rebuild trust as Christina did when Mark finally stood up to his parents? Or would his initial inaction, his compliance with Eleanor's cruelty, be an unforgivable betrayal? Consider the layers here. Mark watched Christina suffer for hours while following his mother's orders, knowing full well the potential consequences. He had been conditioned since childhood to prioritize family image over health and safety. Yet he eventually found his courage, broke free from his parents, and dedicated his life to making amends through his new clinic. So which is worse? The in-laws' active cruelty or Mark's passive compliance? And at what point does childhood conditioning stop being an excuse for harmful adult behavior? I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments. Would you have called 911 sooner than Christina did? Would you have pressed charges against the in-laws? What would it take for you to forgive a spouse who initially chose their toxic family over your life? If this story resonated with you, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps these important stories reach others who might need to hear them. Share your thoughts below, and let's have a real conversation about family loyalty, survival, and the courage to break toxic cycles. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next story that might make you question everything you thought you knew about family dynamics. Together, we're building a community that supports survivors and holds toxic behavior accountable. Let's keep the conversation going. Hi, I'm Sandra. I teach 3rd grade at Riverside Elementary. Babe, I made your favorite breakfast. I called out to James as he rushed down the stairs, looking sharp in his tailored suit. That was how most of our mornings went 2 years ago, me trying to be the perfect wife while juggling my teaching career. You're amazing, honey, but I'm running late. Mom's called an early meeting. He grabbed a piece of toast, kissed my cheek, and headed for the door. That's the 3rd time this week, I muttered, trying to hide my disappointment. You know how it is with a new development project, he called over his shoulder. The Richardson deal is huge. That was my life with James. Everything revolved around the family business and his mother, Barbara. Don't get me wrong, things were amazing at first. He swept me off my feet with a whirlwind romance. But I should have seen the red flags when he needed his mother's approval before proposing. Did you tell your mom about the dinner party on Saturday? I asked one rare, quiet evening. About that, he hesitated. Mom's arranged a business dinner with potential investors. James, we've been planning this for weeks. Lisa's flying in specially. I know, but Mom says this deal could change everything. My sister, Lisa, had warned me from the start. Sandra, she's got him wrapped around her finger. This isn't normal. She's just protective. I defend weakly. Then I got pregnant. That's when Barbara's subtle comments turned into blatant criticism. Darling, are you sure you should be eating that? She'd say during family dinners. We wouldn't want you getting too big. My best friend Sarah would listen to me vent during our lunch breaks. Girl, she's trying to control everything. Did you see how she surprised you with that nursery redesign? Even James's cousin Tom noticed. Barbara's always been intense, but since you got pregnant, she's gone into overdrive. The breaking point came in my 7th month. Barbara suggested we move into her mansion. The baby needs proper care, and this modest house isn't suitable for a Henderson here. This is our home, I protested. Mom's right, Sandra. Think about the baby, James chimed in. I watched heartbroken as my husband transformed into Barbara's yes man. Every decision, from my prenatal vitamins to the nursery walls, required her input. You're lucky to have such an involved mother-in-law, she'd remind me constantly. One evening, during her weekly family dinner, I felt a sharp pain tear through me. James, something's wrong, I said, ripping the edge of Barbara's mahogany dining table. Not now, Sandra. James has the Richardson presentation in an hour, Barbara said without looking up from her tablet. I think I'm in labor. The pain was unbearable. 7 weeks early. James finally looked at me. Mom, I need to take her to the hospital. Barbara's eyes narrowed. Absolutely not. The Richardsons are flying in specifically for this. Do you know how much work I've put into arranging this? James helped me up, actually showing some backbone for once. Mom, my wife is in labor. The drive to the hospital was tense. James kept checking his phone as Barbara bombarded him with messages. I tried to breathe through the contractions when his phone rang on speaker. James Henderson, if you don't turn around right now, you can kiss your position goodbye. Everything you've worked for gone. I'll write you out of everything. Mom, please. Choose James, right now, your inheritance or her drama. You know she's probably faking it anyway. I couldn't believe what happened next. James pulled into the hospital drop-off zone and stopped. I'm sorry, Sandra. Mom's right. This is millions we're talking about. Sarah and Lisa are on their way. I'll be back as soon as I can. Are you serious, James? I gasped. Another contraction hitting me like a tidal wave. But he was already driving away. Sarah found me crumpled at the entrance. Oh my God, Sandra. Where's James? He left, I stammered, tears streaming down my face. He actually left me here. The next 20 hours were hell. Lisa arrived just as complications started. Her blood pressures dropping, a nurse called out, "We need to prep for an emergency C-section." "Keep trying, James," I begged Sarah between agonizing contractions. "Straight to voicemail," she muttered, her face pale. But Tom just texted, "James is actually doing the presentation right now." Lisa was livid. "That spineless coward. I'm going to destroy him in the divorce." The complications kept piling up. The baby's heart rate wasn't stable, and the pain was unbearable. "Sandra, we need to make a decision about the procedure," the doctor said urgently. "Where's her husband?" someone asked. "He's not coming," Lisa snapped, gripping my hand tightly. "I'm her sister. I'll sign whatever you need." As I labored, Sarah's phone buzzed with updates from Tom. "Barbara's parroting James around like nothing's wrong," she spat, disgusted. "She's introducing him to investors, champagne in hand. I can't watch this anymore." Hours of surgery blurred into chaos. The medical team's voices felt distant. Blood pressure still unstable. Need more units of blood. Baby's in distress. Finally, at 3:47 a.m., my daughter, Emma, was born. Despite everything, she was perfect, a 6-pound fighter. James showed up the next afternoon, wearing the same suit and reeking of champagne. "The meeting went amazing," he announced, oblivious. "Mom says, get out." Lisa's voice cut through the room like a knife. She stepped between us. "Get out before I call security." "But I'm the father." "The father?" Lisa snarled. "Where were you when she needed emergency surgery? When they couldn't stop the bleeding? When your daughter took her first breath? You were playing puppet to mommy dearest." Tom appeared in the doorway, his face grim. "James, man, what you did. I watched Barbara manipulate you all night. But this was your choice." "You don't understand," James stammered. "The deal was worth less than your wife and child," Sarah interrupted, cradling Emma protectively. I lay there silently, watching the man I once loved stammer excuses. He was gone, destroyed by his mother's control, choosing money over his family. "Barbara says she'll come visit when it's convenient," James offered weakly. "Tell Barbara," I croaked, my voice hoarse but steady, "that she'll never see her granddaughter. Ever. And you? We're done." The look of confusion on his face said it all. He still didn't understand what he'd done. His mother's grip on him was complete. As he left, Tom lingered. "Sandra, I'm so sorry. I saw it all, the things Barbara said, how she played him." The days after were a blur of pain meds, breastfeeding struggles, and unwanted visitors. James popped in occasionally, always with his mother's designer gift baskets and rehearsed excuses. "Mom says you're probably too tired for long visits anyway," he said once. "The investors are still in town, you understand, right?" When I finally got home, James had already moved his things out. A note on the counter read, "Mom thinks you need space to recover. I'll be staying at the mansion." Sarah brought dinner that night, fury burning in her eyes. "He's telling everyone you kicked him out," she fumed. "Barbara's spreading rumors at the country club about your unstable mental state and concerning behavior." Tom started visiting regularly, bringing disturbing news. "Sandra, you need to know something." James signed over his voting rights to Barbara. She had the papers ready right after he left you at the hospital. He signed everything away. Lisa went into full lawyer mode. "We're documenting everything. Every text, every missed visit, every rumor. I've already frozen your joint accounts and started divorce proceedings." Postpartum depression hit me hard. Some days, getting out of bed felt impossible. But Emma needed me, and my support system pulled me through. "Take a shower," Sarah insisted, cradling Emma. "I've got her." "Eat something," Lisa demanded, bringing soup. "You can't fight Barbara if you're weak." Tom kept bringing more revelations. "She's pushing through shady deals while James is distracted. The board's getting nervous." James visited once more, all apologetic smiles. "Mom says if you agree to counseling, her choice of therapist, of course. Maybe we could work this out. Sandra, be reasonable." "Your mother left me to die in that hospital," I said coldly, "and you chose money over your daughter's life. Get out." He looked baffled, like a puppet with its strings cut. "Mom said you'd be difficult about this," he murmured. That was the moment I knew I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore. I was fighting for Emma. Barbara Henderson was about to learn that she'd messed with the wrong mother. Looking at my daughter's sleeping face, I made a promise. We would rebuild, we would thrive, and they would regret ever underestimating us. 6 months after Emma's birth, I was finally finding my rhythm. My daughter was thriving and had returned to teaching part-time. Then Tom showed up at my door, looking nervous. "Sandra, this is bigger than we thought," he said, spreading documents across my kitchen table. Lisa watched Emma as Tom continued. "Barbara's been forging James's signatures on company papers for months." "But that's just the start," Tom said grimly, spreading more documents on the table. "Those luxury properties Barbara's been bragging about, they're fake. She's running a massive Ponzi scheme, using new investor money to pay off the old ones." Days later, Sarah burst through my door, out of breath. "Sandra, it gets worse." I looked up from feeding Emma, my stomach tightening. "What now?" "I was having drinks with Barbara's secretary," she said, her voice low and urgent. "She's been blackmailing half the family. Even Tom's dad. She's got dirt on everyone to keep them quiet about the business." The dominoes started falling fast. Tom, quietly gathering evidence, chose the perfect moment to leak everything during a massive development meeting. The FBI stormed the Henderson offices within hours. "They're going through everything," Tom texted. "James is trying to take the blame, but he's making rookie mistakes in his lies. He can't even explain basic details about deals with his signature on them." I watched it all unfold on TV. Henderson real estate empire caught in massive investment fraud. The next day, Barbara was stopped at the airport, trying to board a private jet with suitcases of cash and fake passports. "My mother just tried to frame me for everything." James's voice echoed through the precinct as Barbara was escorted in, handcuffed. "All those papers you made me sign," he shouted. "Oh, darling," Barbara sneered, her eyes cold. "You were always too stupid to run the company anyway." The headlines kept rolling. Henderson matriarch faces 15 years. Investors sue for millions. Henderson empire crumbles. Family bankrupt. While the world dissected the scandal, I focused on building something real. My tutoring center, Little Scholars, became my sanctuary, a place of healing. Emma grew up surrounded by books, love, and people who truly cared. Months later, a video message from James appeared in my inbox. Gone were the designer suits. He wore a car salesman's uniform, his eyes hollow. "Sandra, please, I see it all now," he began. "Mom controlled everything. I lost myself. Please, let me be part of Emma's life." I deleted the message. That night, while reading Emma her bedtime story, my phone buzzed again with breaking news. Barbara Henderson sentenced to 15 years. James Henderson barred from financial industry for life. Once upon a time, I told Emma, closing her favorite book, there was a princess who thought she needed a prince. But she learned that the strongest love is choosing herself and her baby over people who hurt her, and she lived happily ever after without them. Emma drifted off to sleep, peaceful and secure. Her world would never have room for toxic love or manipulation. The headlines would fade. Barbara would serve her time. James would live with his regrets in Nevada. But Emma and I, we were thriving. Our little family, me, Lisa, Sarah, Tom, and Emma, was built on love and truth. No manipulation. No control. Sometimes the happy ending isn't what you planned. Sometimes it's better. Because sometimes the princess doesn't need saving, she saves herself. And that's the story I'll make sure Emma always knows. Now, I have a question for you. What would you do if someone you love deeply had been manipulated their entire life? Would you wait and try to help them break free, or would you protect yourself and walk away like I did? I still wonder if I could have saved James from his mother's grip. But at what cost to Emma and to myself? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's talk about toxic family dynamics and where we draw the line between helping someone and protecting ourselves. If you want to hear more real stories about overcoming toxic relationships and finding your strength, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Your support means everything. Stay strong. Hi, I'm Laura. I never thought owning a family restaurant would lead to having my arm broken, but here we are. It all started 7 years ago when my older brother James married Karen. At first, I thought things would stay peaceful, but Karen had other plans. Your aunt owns this restaurant, sweeties. You should always get served first. I overheard Karen telling her kids, Tommy and Lisa, during their first visit after the wedding. They're good kids, really just caught up in their mom's drama. The problem started small. Every Sunday, Karen would show up with her family during our busiest hours. Why isn't there food here yet? We've been waiting 15 whole minutes, she'd exclaim, oblivious to the fact that other families have been waiting much longer. Sarah, my best friend and our head server, always tried to smooth things over. The kitchen's backed up today. Everyone's getting their food in order. Well, everyone else's children aren't the owner's niece and nephew, are they? Karen would retort. At first, I kept the peace. James would give me that pleading look, and I'd cave. But last Sunday, everything fell apart. We were packed, celebrating the local team's championship win. Every table was full. The children are hungry now. Karen stormed into the kitchen, dragging Tommy and Lisa behind her. They hovered awkwardly by the door, clearly embarrassed. You're making them wait while serving complete strangers. Karen, please leave the kitchen. It's not safe. Don't tell me what's safe for my children. You think you're better than me because you own this place. You always look down on us. I tried to stay calm. Everyone gets served in order. That's how restaurants work. Her face twisted with rage, and before I knew it, she grabbed my arm. You'll serve my children now. Let go. I tried to pull away, but she twisted harder. The crack was deafening. Tommy screamed, and I hit the floor. The next thing I remember, Sarah was calling 911 and James, finally, was yelling at Karen instead of making excuses for her. Now I'm sitting in the ER, waiting for the doctor. Sarah's here, and my phone won't stop buzzing with messages from my parents. But this is it, the last straw. Karen's perfect mama bear facade is about to shatter, and I won't stop until everyone sees her for who she really is. The hospital staff took pictures of my bruised and broken arm. The next morning, my parents watched the restaurant security footage. I wasn't there, but they told me Karen's face went ghost white when she realized it was all on camera. I knew she had issues, but my dad couldn't even finish his sentence. They'd always tried to welcome Karen into the family, even when she was difficult. Now they were finally seeing the real her. My phone buzzed. A text from James. James, can we talk? Me, depends. Are you calling to make excuses for her again? James, no, Tommy won't stop crying. He thinks it's his fault you're hurt. Lisa won't even look at Karen. I sighed, poor kids. Me, tell them their Aunt Laura's okay. This isn't their fault. Word spread quickly in our small town. By Tuesday, regular customers were dropping off get well cards. Mrs. Chen, who's eaten lunch at my place every day for 5 years, brought her famous soup. My daughter showed me the video on Facebook, she said quietly. Wait, what video? I asked, nearly choking on the soup. Turns out Sarah had had enough. She posted the security footage online. The video went viral in our community, not just the attack, but Karen's entitled rant beforehand. Her perfect mama bear image was crumbling fast. You always take her side. Karen's voice rang out from next door that evening. She was at James's parents' house, probably expecting them to smooth things over as usual. I was protecting my children, she cried. From what? My mom shot back. Learning to wait their turn like everyone else. Your precious daughter put my daughter in the hospital. Dad's voice followed. Get out of our house. My phone buzzed again, this time from Lisa's tutor. Hey, this might not be my place. I stared at my phone for a long time after reading the tutor's message. The perfect family image Karen worked so hard to maintain was collapsing, and the biggest cracks were coming from the children she claimed to protect. Send them to me, I typed back. It's time everyone saw the whole truth. The next morning, James stopped by the restaurant. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Slumping into a booth, he let out a heavy sigh. The kids are staying at Mom and Dad's, he said. I can't believe I let this go on for so long. Your kids were scared of her, James, I said, my voice sharp. Their tutor sent me videos. He rubbed his face with both hands. I know, I've seen them. Lisa showed me everything on her tablet. Karen, she'd completely lose it if they got a wrong answer on their homework. I thought I don't even know what I thought anymore. Sarah, ever perceptive, brought him a coffee without asking. She'd known James since high school. Remember when Karen threw a fit because Tommy wanted store-bought cookies for his class party instead of her homemade ones? Sarah asked softly. She made him cry in front of all his friends. James nodded, his voice barely above a whisper. She said he was embarrassing the family. My phone kept lighting up with messages. One was from Karen's closest friend, Caroline. I always knew something was off, she said over the phone. Last month, she screamed at my daughter for beating Lisa in the spelling bee, called it sabotage, and banned the girls from playing together. The stories didn't stop there. Karen, desperate to salvage her reputation, took to social media, accusing me of being a toxic influence on her children and jealous of her perfect family. But the community Karen had tried so hard to impress wasn't buying it. People started commenting, sharing their own experiences. Remember when she demanded the soccer coach give Tommy MVP? She tried to get my kid kicked off the debate team for beating Lisa. She made those nasty comments about Laura being single and childless. The truth was out, and the community Karen once manipulated had turned against her. I filed for divorce, James said quietly, breaking me from my thoughts. The kids, they asked me to. Tommy said he feels safer at Grandma's house. Lisa hasn't had a panic attack since they moved out. I reached across the table with my good arm, squeezing his hand. You're doing the right thing. She's threatening to fight for full custody, James added, his tone heavy. Then, for the first time in days, he smiled. But the tutor's videos and the security footage, she doesn't stand a chance. Just then, the door swung open. Tommy and Lisa burst in, followed by Mom and Aunt Audrey, holding a giant handmade get well card. We made it ourselves, Lisa said proudly, her eyes shining. Looking at their happy faces, finally free from Karen's shadow, I knew everything would be okay. Sometimes family isn't about keeping the peace. It's about breaking free from the people who poison it. The whole ordeal ended faster than anyone expected. Karen took one look at the evidence and crumbled. The judge wasn't impressed by her, but their my baby's speech, especially after watching the tutor's videos. Joint custody, James told me over breakfast at the restaurant a few weeks later. But she has to take anger management classes and can only have supervised visits, for now. 3 months after what everyone calls the kitchen incident, my arm is healing well. The restaurant is busier than ever. When people learned why I was in the hospital, they started coming in just to show their support. Funny how karma works. Table 7 wants to thank the chef, Sarah called out, grinning. It was Tommy and Lisa, sitting with James and our parents. No more demands for special treatment, just 2 happy kids enjoying their burgers like everyone else. How's the arm, sweetie? Mom asked as I joined them. Better, I said, smiling. Physical therapy's helping. I ruffled Tommy's hair. Besides, I've got the best helpers now. These 2 have been folding napkins like pros. Lisa beamed. We like helping. And nobody yells if we do it wrong. The last we heard, Karen moved across town. She's still trying to play the victim on social media. But Karen's attempts to salvage her image backfired spectacularly when the tutor's videos went public. After that, she mostly stayed quiet, likely plotting her next perfect family somewhere else. You know what's weird? James said one evening, watching Tommy and Lisa laugh with Sarah. I kept trying to keep the peace, thinking it would help the kids, but they were the ones begging me to make it stop. Dad squeezed his shoulder. You did the right thing, son. Sometimes peace comes after the storm. Looking around my restaurant, at my real family, the regular customers who had become friends, and Tommy and Lisa finally acting like kids, I couldn't agree more. My arm had been broken, but it broke something else too. Karen's power over all of us. Who wants dessert? I asked, standing up. Chef's special, on the house. Can we help make it? Tommy asked eagerly. Sure can, buddy. No special treatment needed, just family helping family. And that's exactly how it should be. 6 months later, during our weekly family dinner, James dropped a bombshell. I met someone, he said quietly. Everyone froze for a moment before Tommy blurted out, Miss Anna. Dad, is it Miss Anna? The way James blushed told us everything. Lisa squealed, she's so nice. She never yells, and she helped me with my science project last week. I remember Anna. She'd been one of the first people to bring me a get well card after the kitchen incident. She never mentioned knowing Karen, just said she'd seen enough and wanted to show her support. We're taking it really slow, James explained, looking around nervously. She understands the kids need time. Time for what? Lisa asked, grinning. We love Miss Anna. She comes to all our school stuff anyway. Sarah, bringing over coffee, couldn't help but jump in. Oh, the nice lady who brings her class here for reading sessions. James, you dark horse. The kids couldn't stop talking about Anna, how she'd helped Tommy overcome his fear of public speaking and defended Lisa when kids teased her about Karen's social media meltdown. Each story painted a picture of someone completely different from Karen, kind, patient, and genuinely good. She asked about you, James told me later as we cleaned up. Wanted to make sure it wouldn't be weird, given everything. Weird? I said, shaking my head. James, the kids are glowing. When's the last time you saw them this excited about anything? He smiled softly. They asked if they could call her mom. Not now, but someday. Lisa said she wants a mom who builds people up instead of tearing them down. Out of the mouths of babes, Sarah chimed in, counting the day's receipts. The restaurant had become a sanctuary. Every Friday, Anna brought her kindergarten class for story time. They'd sit in a corner booth with milk and cookies, reading books about kindness and courage. Karen would have hated it, seeing common kids sitting where her precious ones used to demand special treatment. But that's the thing about toxic people. They can't stand seeing others happy without their permission. Last week, Karen drove by during story time. She saw James sitting with Anna and the kids, all of them laughing. Later, she called him crying about being replaced too soon. You know what Tommy said? James told me the next day. He said, Dad, we're not replacing her. We're upgrading our happiness. Smart kid. They both are. Watching them heal, watching James learn to trust again, and seeing our family come back stronger. It made everything worth it, even the broken arm. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting better, moving forward, building something so beautiful that the people who tried to break you can't help but see what they lost. Hi, I'm Angela. Funny how life changes in the blink of an eye. One moment you're a passionate nurse at Memorial Hospital, thriving in your career. The next, you're married to someone who feels like two different people, public dean, the charismatic, attentive husband, and private dean, someone far darker. Your sister called again, Sarah said during our lunch break, sliding into the seat across from me in the hospital cafeteria. Her tone was casual, but her eyes betrayed concern. She's worried. Says she hasn't heard from you in months. I stirred my coffee, avoiding her gaze. You know how busy the hospital gets. I'll call her soon. Sarah frowned. Remember when we used to go out after shifts? You never come anymore. And what's with the long sleeves in this heat? Dean likes us to have dinner together. Says it's important for married couples, I replied, tugging at my sleeve. It was an excuse, one of many I'd grown adept at offering. The truth was, I hadn't seen my family in nearly a year. Somewhere between I do and now, my world has shrunk to three things: work, home, and Dean-approved activities. Even at work, I couldn't escape him. He'd drop by unexpectedly, questioning who I was talking to or why I was staying late. His mother, Helen, often reminded me how blessed I was. Dean is just like his father, Robert, she'd say with pride. So devoted to his family. They just like to know where their wives are. It shows they care. She'd said this once while Robert casually checked her phone for the third time that evening. The spark of excitement came one morning in the break room. Big news, Sarah announced, her face lit up. They're promoting someone to charge nurse next month. You should apply, Angela. You're the best nurse on this floor. For the first time in forever, I felt hope flicker. A charge nurse position meant better hours, more responsibility, and nearly double my salary. Maybe, just maybe, with more money, things at home would get better. That night, while Dean was at his weekly poker game, what his sister Diana had let slip were underground gambling sessions. I filled out the application. When the promotion call came, I almost didn't answer. Unknown numbers usually meant collectors calling about Dean's mysterious debts. But this time, it was good news. They offered me the position on the spot. Double the salary. Day shifts only. Weekends off. Tomorrow, you're having dinner at Dean's parents' house. I hadn't told him about the promotion yet. Helen was making her famous pot roast, and Diana was bringing her kids. I knew Robert and Dean would spend most of the evening discussing Dean's failing business ventures while casually monitoring their wife's phones. But tomorrow would be different. For the first time since I said I do, I was planning to say no. When Dean demanded my first charge nurse paycheck, I'd be ready. My hands shook as I typed out a text to Sarah. Can you come to dinner at Helen and Robert's tomorrow? I might need a friend. The pot roast sat heavy in my stomach as I watched Dean charm his way through dinner. He was in rare form, telling jokes, complimenting his mom's cooking, and playing the role of the perfect son. No one would guess what had happened in the car just hours earlier. Remember to keep quiet about the promotion until we discuss it properly, he'd said, his grip leaving marks on my arm. Angela's been so quiet tonight, Helen said, reaching across the table to pat my hand. Are you feeling all right, dear? Actually, I have some news. The words slipped out before I could stop them. The wine glass in Dean's hand stilled midair. I got promoted to charge nurse today. That's wonderful. Diana's genuine excitement cut through the tension like a blade. Isn't that great, Dean? Dean's smile didn't waver, but his eyes turned cold. Of course, Dean said smoothly, though the sharp edge in his voice was unmistakable. Angela and I were just discussing how the extra money will help with our debts. What debts? Robert's voice cut through the room. Dean's father rarely spoke at these dinners, making his question all the more pointed. There is no debt. My voice, steady but strange even to me, broke the stunned silence. And the money isn't going toward any mysterious bills either. I'm keeping this paycheck. The silence that followed was deafening. Helen's fork clattered against her plate. Honey, Dean began, his voice carrying that warning tone I knew too well. Let's discuss this at home. No, I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. No more discussions at home. No more managing my money. No more controlling every aspect of my life. Dean shot up from his seat, towering over me. You're being hysterical, he hissed. This is why you need my help. Help? I laughed bitterly. Like when you got emotional because I bought groceries without asking. Or yesterday when I talked to my brother on the phone without your permission. Dean? Helen's voice was uncertain now. What is she talking about? Nothing, Mom. Dean's facade was slipping. He reached for my arm with that all too familiar grip disguised as affection. But I stepped back. Don't touch me. His mask finally cracked. You're my wife, he snarled, his voice low and venomous. Your money is my money. Everything you have is mine. Time slowed. His hand lashed out, striking my face. It wasn't the subtle, controlled aggression I'd grown used to. This was raw, unrestrained violence. I barely registered the chaos around me. Robert standing up abruptly, Diana shielding her children, Helen's hands flying to her mouth in horror. Through the ringing in my ears, I found my voice. Don't stop, Dean, I said, forcing each word out. Show your family exactly who you are. Give me exactly what I need. His composure shattered completely. The man who had fooled everyone in this room, who had played the perfect son, the loving husband, revealed his true self in an uncontrollable rage. The last thing I saw before the world went dark was Sarah bursting through the door with 2 police officers in tow. She'd gotten my text after all. I woke up in a hospital bed to the soft murmur of voices. Sarah was holding my hand, her eyes red from crying. My brother James sat nearby, asleep in a chair by the window. How did you know to come? My throat was raw, my voice barely audible. Diana called me, Sarah said, squeezing my hand. Right after she called James. We got here as fast as we could. The events of that night came flooding back. The promotion announcement, Dean's outburst, his father's rare attempt to intervene, Helen's screams, Diana shielding her kids. Everything had unraveled so quickly. After 3 days in the hospital, I moved into James's guest room. For the first time in years, I didn't have to walk on eggshells or monitor my every word. Peace, however tentative, began to settle in. Helen called again. Sarah said one afternoon, handing me a coffee during one of her visits, and Dean's been harassing everyone at the hospital, trying to find you. But the corporate world proved brutally efficient. Dean's carefully crafted professional image couldn't withstand what his own family had witnessed. His firm's partners began asking questions. Clients pulled away. Sarah filled me in during a break. They put him on leave, she said. Apparently he's been snapping at people and making threats. His mask is slipping everywhere now. He tried coming to the house, James added, his voice tight with anger. I had a word with him. He won't try again. Each day brought new updates about Dean's downfall. But watching his life unravel wasn't my focus anymore. My energy was devoted to healing. The hospital administration, horrified by what had happened, doubled down on their support, installing new security measures and fast-tracking me into the management training program. Diana began bringing her kids over for dinner, a simple joy Dean had never allowed. Even Helen started therapy. I'm starting to see how much damage I caused by enabling him, she admitted during one of our hesitant conversations. The fear wasn't gone entirely, but it was fading. In its place grew something stronger. The knowledge that I wasn't alone and never had been. Looking at my small but fierce support system, I realized something profound. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't about punishment. It's about thriving despite everything they tried to take from you. 6 months have passed since that night at Helen's dining table. The hospital corridors feel different now. They're mine. As the charge nurse of the emergency department, I run my floor with the confidence I thought I'd lost. "Angela, we need your sign-off on the new schedules," Emma, a junior nurse, said, handing me a clipboard. The tablet caught my eye, and with it, a detail I hadn't noticed before. Diana's engagement ring was gone. "I left him," she whispered, her voice steady yet soft. "After what happened with you, I realized I didn't have to stay." My story had spread through the hospital, not as gossip, but as a wake-up call. 3 other women had already left their abusive situations. Sometimes strength is contagious. I was reviewing patient charts when Sarah burst into the room, her face pale. "He's here," she said breathlessly. "Dean is in the ER." My hands didn't shake anymore. "What happened?" "Some sort of breakdown at work," she explained. "He started throwing things, threatening people. His firm finally fired him." I walked to the ER entrance, Sarah close behind. Dean sat on a bed, his head in his hands. He looked smaller somehow. Helen hovered nearby, visibly strained, while Diana stood at a distance, her arms crossed. "You need to treat me first," Dean barked at the intake nurse. "I'm having chest pains." I stepped forward, clipboard in hand. "Actually, as charge nurse, I determine priority cases. And you're not having a heart attack, Dean. Your vitals are normal. You're having a panic attack because your actions finally have consequences." He looked up then, really seeing me for the first time. But I wasn't the woman he'd married anymore. My scrubs were short-sleeved, no more hiding. My voice didn't waver. "You can't treat me," he snarled. "You're my wife." "Ex-wife," I corrected. "And I'm not treating you. I'm doing my job, which means the elderly man in Bay 3 with actual chest pains takes precedence over you." Helen stepped forward, her expression resolute. "Dean, that's enough. You've lost everything because of your own actions, your job, your family, your reputation." "Mom, you can't." "I can," she said firmly, cutting him off. "And I will. You need help, real help, but not from the people you've hurt." Turning back to the intake nurse, I instructed, "Mr. Doe can wait. His condition is non-critical." Then meeting Dean's eyes one last time, I added, "Bay 4 is open when you're ready to fill out your paperwork like everyone else." As I walked away, Diana fell into step beside me. That was beautiful. It wasn't about revenge, I told her. It was about taking back power, my power. Later that night, I sat in my new apartment, surrounded by the life I'd rebuilt. Photos from Sarah's wedding, where I'd stood as her maid of honor. My charge nurse certification proudly displayed. The keys to my own car. A calendar full of family dinners with James, nights out with friends, and plans for a future I created myself. My phone buzzed with a text from Helen. "I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner, but I'm so proud of who you've become." I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I looked around at my peaceful home, at all the pieces of myself I gathered back together. They were stronger now, forged in fire and truth. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't about destroying your abuser. It's about rebuilding yourself so completely that their power over you becomes nothing but a memory. And memory can't hurt me anymore. I picked up my phone and typed my response, "I'm proud of me too." Now this is my story. If you've read this far, let me know your thoughts. Share your experiences. Your courage might help someone recognize these patterns before it's too late. Remember, asking for help isn't a weakness. It's a strength. Hi, I'm Teresa. Today, I want to share my story with you. You know how people say some mothers-in-law are a gift from heaven? Well, mine was more like a surprise from somewhere else. I just didn't know it yet. When Ryan proposed last spring, he couldn't stop gushing. "You're going to love my mom. She's already excited to help with the wedding," he said as we drove to meet his parents for the first time. I still remember that dinner. Diana, his mother, greeted me with an overly tight hug. "Oh, sweetie, call me Diana. We're family now," she said, her smile as bright as the diamonds on her wrist. "Ryan's told me so much about you." Everything seemed perfect. Diana threw herself into the wedding preparations almost immediately. She'd show up at my apartment with bridal magazines and vendor catalogs full of ideas. My best friend Kate couldn't believe it. "Your future mother-in-law is actually helping. Mine just criticized everything," Kate said over coffee. "I know, I got so lucky," I replied. "She's even excited about my grandmother's gold jewelry collection. I'm wearing it for the wedding." "The family heirlooms? That's huge," Kate said. I nodded, remembering the day my grandmother gave them to me before she passed. "Diana says they'll look perfect with the dress she's helping me choose." The first time Diana saw the jewelry, her eyes lit up like a child's on Christmas morning. "Such exquisite pieces," she exclaimed, running her fingers over the gold. "You must tell me where you store them." "Oh, just in my bedroom," I answered, not thinking much of it. "You should get a safe deposit box. These must be worth a fortune," she said, her tone almost too casual. "They're more sentimental than anything else," I replied. A week later, Diana hosted a family dinner. Her friend Nancy was there, and they kept exchanging looks whenever I talked about the wedding. "So, Teresa," Nancy started, "Diana tells me you have quite the jewelry collection." "Just some family pieces for the wedding," I said, feeling a bit uncomfortable. "Family pieces? How quaint," Nancy said, her tone dripping with condescension. Diana chimed in with small, subtle comments about my background that made my cheeks burn. "Mom, stop it," Ryan's sister Emma warned. "What?" "I'm just saying Teresa's family is different from ours. Standards aren't quite the same." Later, Kate noticed my unease. "You okay? Diana seems intense lately." I sighed. "She keeps asking about the gold, where I keep it, how much it's worth. She says she's worried about security." "That's weird. Have you told Ryan?" Kate asked. "He says she's just being protective, but something feels off," I admitted. One afternoon, Diana and Nancy showed up unannounced at my apartment. "We were just in the neighborhood," Diana chirped, but her eyes scanned the room like she was casing it. Soon, Diana started suggesting I keep the jewelry at her house just until the wedding, for safekeeping. Her smile never reached her eyes when I politely declined. That night, Ryan was distant. "Mom says you've been acting strange about the jewelry," he said. "Strange? I'm just protecting my grandmother's legacy." "See? That's what she means. You're so defensive about it," he replied. Later, Emma called me. "Hey, just checking on you. Mom's being..." "Well, Mom, let's just say you're not the first girlfriend to notice something off about her." I didn't know it then, but Diana had plans for my grandmother's gold, plans that would tear my relationship apart and reveal her true nature to everyone. 3 weeks before the wedding, I opened my jewelry box to show Kate the collection one last time before getting it cleaned. My heart dropped. "Kate, it's gone. Everything's gone." "What do you mean, gone? Did you move it?" Kate asked, her voice tense. No, I always keep it right here," I stammered, my heart pounding. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Diana. "Ryan needs to talk to you. Coming over now." Kate grabbed my arm. "Wait. Isn't it strange she's texting you right when we discover this?" Before I could respond, Ryan burst through the door, with Diana hovering behind him like a storm cloud. "Is it true?" he demanded, his face tight with confusion. "Is what true?" I asked, bewildered. "Mom says you've been acting strange. She told me you're planning to run away, talking about money problems, stressed over the wedding costs." Diana stepped forward, her face a mask of concern. "I didn't want to say anything, but I saw you leaving a pawn shop yesterday. Ryan, honey, if Teresa's having financial troubles, she should have come to us." "What?" I gasped. "I wasn't even near a pawn shop yesterday. I was with Kate at the florist." "Don't lie, dear," Diana said, her voice sickly sweet. "Nancy saw you too. We're just worried. Selling off family heirlooms is a cry for help." Kate jumped in. "She's lying. Teresa was with me all afternoon. We even have receipts from the florist. Oh, show us then, Diana challenged, her eyes narrowing. Teresa, just tell me the truth, Ryan pleaded. Did you plan to sell the jewelry because of money problems? Were you going to run away? I stared at him stunned. Ryan, how can you even ask me that? Those pieces mean everything to me. They're my family's legacy. Then where are they? Diana pressed, her voice dripping with Fox concern. Ryan, remember what happened with your ex? The one with all those secret debts? Before I could answer, my phone rang. It was Emma. Her voice was sharp as a knife. Teresa, Mom's telling everyone you're having a breakdown. She's calling wedding guests, saying you're planning to run away and might need professional help. I put the call on speaker just as Nancy walked in, her face a picture of self-righteous fury. Diana, I just talked to Olivia. She says she saw Teresa at the bus station yesterday, looking upset. This is insane, I shouted. I haven't been near a bus station. Ryan looked at me, his expression torn. I don't know what to believe anymore. Believe me, I said, my voice trembling. Your mother is lying. Diana's mask slipped for a moment, her voice turning sharp. Don't you dare call me a liar. She turned to Ryan. She's clearly not stable. Selling heirlooms, running away. What else is she hiding? Kate stepped between us, her voice firm. Everyone needs to leave. Now, Ryan, if you believe these lies over your fiancée, you don't deserve her. After they left, I collapsed into tears. Kate, she planned this. She's been planning it all along. Kate put an arm around me. We'll prove it. Emma texted shortly after. I want to help. This isn't the first time Mom's pulled something like this. My phone buzzed relentlessly with messages from wedding guests, asking if I was okay. Diana had worked fast, spreading her poison everywhere. But she'd made 3 big mistakes. First, she didn't know about my apartment's new security system. Second, she underestimated Emma's loyalty to the truth. And third, she had no idea Nancy's daughter Olivia had grown a conscience. The security company just emailed me the footage. I told Kate and Emma over coffee. I played the clip. Emma gasped. That's Mom. She's using Ryan's spare key to sneak in. I knew it. She only asked for his keys to help with errands. Kate frowned. The footage shows her entering, but we can't see what she did inside. We need more. My phone buzzed with another text from Ryan. Mom's really worried. Maybe we should postpone the wedding. Emma grabbed her phone. Olivia just agreed to meet us. She's sick of Mom and Nancy's games. At a quiet diner, Olivia looked at us nervously. I'm sorry, Teresa. They made me lie about seeing you at the bus station. Emma leaned forward. Tell us everything. Olivia hesitated, then sighed. Diana's been planning this for weeks. She said you weren't good enough for Ryan, that she needed to expose you as unstable. Did she mention the jewelry? I asked. She said she knew exactly where you kept it. She thought if it was gone, you'd fall apart and prove her point. Emma clenched her fists. Classic Diana. She did something similar to Ryan's college girlfriend. Accused her of stealing Dad's watches. What happened to her? I asked. She broke up with Ryan. Diana won. Emma's voice was firm. But not this time. My phone buzzed again. A text from Diana. Having a nice chat with Olivia, dear. Shame if Ryan found out you're turning his sister and friends against his mother. Kate's eyes widened. She's watching us. Good, I said, smiling coldly. I typed a reply. Hey Nancy, why don't you join us? I can see you in your car outside. Nancy stormed in moments later, her face red with anger. Olivia, get in the car. Now. No, Mom. I'm done lying for you and Diana, Olivia snapped. Emma stepped forward, her tone icy. Nancy, we have the footage. Want to see your best friend breaking into my future sister-in-law's apartment? Nancy's face turned pale, her bravado faltering. Diana said she was just trying to protect Ryan, Nancy stammered. By stealing my grandmother's jewelry? By spreading lies? I shot back. Olivia, trembling but resolute, blurted, she has the jewelry at her house. It's in the guest room closet behind the old photo albums. Olivia, stop talking. Nancy hissed. Or what? Kate interjected, phone in hand, recording everything. Go on, Nancy. Tell us what Diana will do. My phone rang, breaking the tension. It was Ryan. Babe, where are you? Mom's having some kind of emergency. She wants everyone at the house right now. I glanced at the group and smiled. Perfect timing. We're all on our way. Emma's grin was wicked, ready to take down the queen of manipulation. More than ready, I turned to Nancy. And you're coming too. Time to pick a side. When we arrived at Diana's house, the five of us, Kate, Emma, Olivia, Nancy, and I, stood united. Diana opened the door, her usual composed smile faltering when she saw us. "What's this?" she asked, her voice tight. "Ryan, honey, I said I wanted a private family meeting." "Oh, but we're all family here, aren't we, Diana?" I stepped forward, my voice calm but cutting. "Especially since you've been so concerned about my grandmother's jewelry." Ryan looked at me, confused. "Mom, what's she talking about?" I nodded toward Emma. "Check the guest room closet behind the photo albums." Diana lunged toward the stairs. "Don't you dare go into my private spaces." But Kate and Olivia blocked her path. "Ryan," I said, pulling out my phone, "remember when you gave your mom the spare key to my apartment? Want to see what she did with it." I played the security footage. The color drained from Ryan's face as he watched his mother sneak into my apartment. "Mom," his voice cracked. "I was just checking on her." Diana sputtered. "She's been acting strange, and I found the jewelry. Found them." Emma called, coming down the stairs with my grandmother's gold, carefully wrapped in a silk scarf. Diana's mask finally shattered. "Those are mine. She gave them to me." Nancy's voice trembled as she finally broke her silence. "I can't do this anymore, Diana. Tell them the truth." Diana's eyes darted around the room, searching for allies. "You're all against me, after everything I've done for this family." "You stole these," Emma said coldly. "Then you made everyone think Teresa sold them." "Why?" "She's not right for Ryan," Diana shrieked. I had to show him her true nature. Ryan stared at her, his voice barely above a whisper. "The only true nature you've shown is yours, Mom." Diana turned to Nancy in desperation. "Help me?" Nancy stepped back. "I've already called my husband. He's a lawyer, and we're going to make this right." "Make what right?" Diana's voice cracked. "I'm your best friend. You made me and my daughter lie. That stops now." Nancy turned to me. "I'm so sorry I doubted you." "Save it," Emma snapped. "Apologize after we deal with Mom." Diana's last shred of composure dissolved. "Ryan, sweetie, stop this. You can't do this to me." "The wedding's still on, Mom," Ryan said firmly, "but you're not invited. And we're pressing charges for theft." "You can't," she screamed, but it was too late. 2 weeks later, I walked down the aisle wearing my grandmother's jewelry, surrounded by the people who mattered most. Diana, meanwhile, was serving community service and attending court-mandated therapy. Nancy and Olivia testified against her, exposing years of manipulation. And every time Diana tried to play the victim, someone would send out the security footage, reminding everyone of her true colors. Justice wasn't just served, it was golden. Hi, I'm Emma. My life with James is everything I could have dreamed of. He's the kind of man who can fix anything with an engine and make you laugh while doing it. We met 5 years ago when my car broke down, and I still tease him about using that as his pickup line. As a mechanic, he's built a stellar reputation in our community, and I couldn't be prouder to call him my husband. Last spring, I was focused on building my photography business, specializing in corporate events and professional headshots. I had just finished setting up my new studio when Sarah, my sister, dropped by unannounced. She wore the kind of smile that always felt more like a challenge than a greeting. "Oh, sweetie," she cooed, her tone dripping with condescension. "Still playing with your little camera? I thought you'd have grown out of that hobby by now." "It's not a hobby, Sarah," I replied, forcing myself to stay calm. "I just landed the Thompson Industries account." Her eyes widened briefly before she masked her reaction. "Really? How interesting." Marcus and I were just talking about how vital image is in the professional world. I should have known she was plotting something. A week later, my biggest potential client canceled their contract without explanation. Pamela, my best friend since college and an HR manager at Thompson Industries, filled in the blanks. "Your sister," Pamela said, her voice brimming with anger, "contacted our marketing team. She raised ethical concerns about hiring family members for professional services and even showed them some amateur photos claiming they were your work." I gripped my coffee mug tightly, my hands shaking. "She did what?" "That's not all," Pamela added grimly. She suggested they hire Maria instead, her friend who just started dabbling in photography. My stomach turned. Sarah had always been competitive, but this was deliberate, calculated sabotage. That night, James found me in my home office, crying as I stared at my empty booking calendar. "Hey, engine of my life," he said gently, using his cheesy nickname for me. "Talk to me." I poured out the whole story, and James listened intently. Then, without hesitation, he pulled out his phone and started making calls. Tom, his mentor at the auto shop, turned out to be golf buddies with the CEO of Thompson Industries. By the end of the week, not only was my contract reinstated, but they doubled the number of events they wanted me to cover. Pamela spread the word about Sarah's underhanded tactics in professional circles. "Your sister doesn't realize how small the corporate world really is," she told me over lunch. People talk. The final blow to Sarah's scheme came when Maria visited my studio to apologize. "I had no idea she was using me to hurt you," Maria confessed, showing me the messages Sarah had sent her. They detailed the entire plan to undermine my business. That evening, James came home with 3 new client contracts for me. "Turns out, mechanics know a lot of business owners who need good photographers," he said with a wink. "Some of my regulars were pretty excited when I mentioned your work." I hugged him tightly, overwhelmed with gratitude. With James's connections and Pamela's support, my business began to thrive again. That night, we celebrated with takeout from our favorite Chinese restaurant. For the first time in weeks, I felt a deep sense of peace and appreciation for the people who had my back. 2 weeks later, at our annual family reunion, the tension with Sarah resurfaced. She and her husband, Dr. Marcus, arrived in a brand new Mercedes, making sure everyone noticed. "Marcus just made partner at the hospital," Sarah announced during dinner, barely touching her food. "We're thinking of buying a vacation home in the Hamptons. You know how important the right connections are." Our cousin Amy, always kind and genuine, turned to James. "How's work going? I heard you were promoted recently." Before James could answer, Sarah cut in with a smirk. "Oh, you're still at that garage? I thought you'd have moved on to something more professional by now. Marcus knows some people in hospital administration. Maybe he could help you find a real career." The table went silent. I watched James's knuckles whiten around his fork, but his voice remained steady. "I appreciate the offer, Sarah, but I love what I do," James replied evenly, his calm voice cutting through the tension. "Being a mechanic is a perfectly respectable career." Before Sarah could retort, Tom, James's mentor and a father figure to him, spoke up from across the table. "James just saved the city bus company $50,000 by fixing a problem their so-called specialists couldn't figure out." Sarah rolled her eyes dramatically. "How fascinating. Speaking of transportation, Marcus, didn't you just get a call about a speaking engagement in Europe?" Dr. Marcus shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "Actually, I had to decline. The timing wasn't right." "What do you mean you had to decline?" Sarah's voice rose sharply. "Sarah, perhaps we should discuss this later," Marcus muttered, loosening his tie. The conversation eventually moved on, though I couldn't help but notice Marcus checking his phone repeatedly, his expression growing more concerned with each glance. After dessert, Sarah announced they needed to leave early. "Marcus has an important meeting tomorrow," she explained, fishing for her car keys. "Some of us have real responsibilities." As they drove off, the sound of their Mercedes making a horrible grinding noise stopped everyone mid-conversation. Moments later, it rolled to a halt halfway down the driveway. "This is ridiculous," Sarah's voice carried back to the house. "Marcus, call our dealer right now." "They're closed, Sarah. It's Sunday evening." "Well, we can't just stand here. Call a tow truck or something." From the porch, James exchanged a knowing glance with Tom, but said nothing. Sarah's complaints echoed in the gathering darkness until James finally called out, "Need a ride home?" He wiped his hands on a napkin and strolled toward them. "I can have someone from the shop look at your car first thing tomorrow." "We are not letting some grease monkey touch our Mercedes," Sarah snapped. "We'll wait for professional service, thank you very much." Pamela, who'd been watching the scene unfold, leaned over and whispered to me, "Karma works fast these days." We left them waiting in the driveway, Sarah's voice growing shriller by the minute as she argued with Marcus about whose fault it was that they'd skipped the car's last scheduled maintenance. Monday morning, the unexpected call came from Marcus himself. "Listen, James, about the car. The dealership can't look at it until next week. I have critical patient appointments and Sarah's furious. I hate to ask, but I'll take care of it, James interrupted, his voice neutral. Have it towed to the shop. An hour later, Sarah stormed into Tom's auto shop as though she owned the place. This is completely unacceptable. Do you even know how much this car costs? More than you can afford, apparently, Maria chimed in from the waiting area. She'd brought her own car in for service and was watching the scene unfold with amusement. James emerged from under the Mercedes, wiping his hands and holding a tablet. Your transmission has major issues and your brake lines are severely corroded. When's the last time you had it serviced? That's impossible. Sarah scoffed. Marcus handles all that. Actually, Marcus stepped forward hesitantly. I've been meaning to tell you. We've had to postpone some maintenance. The hospital's been making cuts, and with the new house payments. What are you talking about? Sarah's voice was incredulous. You're a doctor. You're a partner at the hospital. Not exactly, Marcus admitted, loosening his tie again. I was passed over for partner. The speaking engagement in Europe? It was a job interview. Sarah, we're in trouble. The color drained from Sarah's face. This is ridiculous. We'll just buy a new car. With what money? Marcus's voice cracked. We're already maxed out. The house is mortgaged to the limit. You're spending. Don't you dare blame this on me, she snapped, turning on James. This is probably some scam. He's just a mechanic. What does he know about luxury cars? Tom stepped out of his office, arms crossed. James is certified for high-end European vehicles. He's one of only 3 mechanics in the state with a specific Mercedes certification. But if you don't want our help... Sarah froze. Maria chimed in. The hospital board members bring their cars here. That's how I found this place. Dr. Patterson was just saying last week how impressed he was with James's work on his Porsche. Marcus grabbed James's arm. Can you fix it? I have surgery scheduled. I can't lose any more credibility with the board. Parts will be expensive, James said calmly, and it'll take a few days to do it right. Just do what you have to do, Marcus replied, handing over his credit card and ignoring Sarah's protests. Sarah stood there, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Every eye in the waiting room was on her, including several people she recognized from her social circle. I'll wait in the car, she muttered. Good luck with that, Maria called after her. It's not going anywhere. Over the next 3 days, James worked overtime on the Mercedes, meticulously repairing years of neglect. The car is just a symptom, James explained, showing me the extent of the damage. They've been living on appearances. Marcus is a good doctor, but Sarah pushed them into a lifestyle they couldn't afford. Word spread quickly through the hospital's social circle. Pamela called to tell me Sarah had been notably absent from the weekly charity committee meeting. Everyone's talking about how she lied about Marcus being made partner. The board members' wives are furious, she said. Later, Maria stopped by my studio with an update. Sarah's been calling everyone, trying to do damage control. But you know what? People are more impressed by how James and Marcus handled everything. Dr. Patterson even asked me to pass his card to James. The hospital is looking for a new service contract for their ambulance fleet. The following week, Sarah showed up at our house alone. She looked different. No designer handbag, no meticulously styled hair. She sat stiffly on the couch, her posture as rigid as her expression. I suppose you're happy now, she said, her voice bitter. Everything's falling apart. Marcus insists we sell the house, says we need to live within our means. The hospital wives won't even return my calls. That's not my fault, Sarah. No, it's not, she admitted, twisting her wedding ring nervously. Marcus showed me the repair bill. James charged less than the dealership would have. He did good work. Her voice softened, but only for a moment. I'm not apologizing, she added quickly. I need a favor. The charity committee is organizing the hospital's annual fundraiser, and they need a photographer. My schedule is fully booked, I replied, keeping my tone polite. I just hired an assistant to help with all the new corporate contracts. But I heard Maria's available. Sarah stood, smoothing down her off-the-rack dress. Right. Of course, I should go. I watched her walk to her car, now an ordinary Toyota, and drive away. Moments later, James pulled into the driveway in his work truck, the hospital's new service contract logo freshly painted on the side. Tom's letting me manage the hospital account, he grinned. We're hiring 2 more mechanics to handle the workload. That evening, Pamela and Maria came over to celebrate. We sat in the backyard, enjoying the simple pleasure of good friends and takeout pizza. Did you hear? Pamela asked, taking a sip of her drink. Marcus finally stood up to Sarah. He's taking that position in Europe, said they need a fresh start. Sarah has to either go with him and live on a regular doctor's salary or stay here on her own. Sometimes people create their own karma, Maria mused. All you have to do is let them. James squeezed my hand as we watched the sunset. We didn't need expensive cars or vacation homes. We had something far better: respect, honest work, and people who genuinely cared about us. In the end, that's what truly matters. Have you ever dealt with someone who looked down on your profession or life choices? How did you handle it? Share your stories in the comments below. I'd love to hear how you stood your ground and stayed true to yourself. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more inspiring stories like this one. Hi, I'm Julie. You know that saying, when you marry someone, you marry their whole family? Well, let me tell you about the day my mother-in-law, Karen, decided to remind me who really ran my household. Life was good, me, my husband Mike, and our 2 kids, Jack and Emma, living in our cozy 3-bedroom home. It wasn't huge, but it was ours. The kids shared the bigger upstairs bedroom, which they proudly decorated themselves. Emma's side adorned with unicorn wallpaper, Jack's with a space theme. For a 10 and 8-year-old, they were getting along surprisingly well. Then came that Sunday dinner. Karen showed up with her daughter Amy trailing behind like a shadow. The first red flag? Karen insisted on cooking instead of ordering our usual pizza. Oh, sweetie, we need to discuss something as a family, Karen said in that saccharine tone that always made my teeth ache. I should have known. Amy's having a rough time, she continued, patting Amy's hand like she was a delicate flower. 3rd job this year, I muttered under my breath. She needs a fresh start, Karen went on. So I told her she could stay here for a while. I nearly choked on my meatloaf. Here, Karen, we don't have a spare room. Oh, that's no problem. Karen waved dismissively. The kids can move to the basement. Amy needs a proper bedroom. The fork slipped from my hand. Excuse me? Mike started to say something, but Karen steamrolled him. Michael, your sister needs help. Family helps family. Before I could fully grasp what was happening, Karen was already marching upstairs. We heard drawers opening and closet doors slamming. By the time I got there, she was tossing Jack's clothes into garbage bags. Stop, you can't just move my children's things. I snapped. Julie, don't be difficult, she replied without even looking at me. The basement is fine. We'll set up dividers for privacy. Mike hovered uselessly in the doorway. Mom, maybe we should discuss this. There's nothing to discuss, Karen cut him off. Amy needs support unless you're suggesting we throw her out on the street. And just like that, my husband deflated like a balloon with a slow leak. That night, Emma cried as her unicorn wallpaper was covered with Amy's vision board full of Pinterest quotes. Jack stood frozen, clutching his favorite space poster. As I lay in bed, listening to my kids trying to adjust to their cramped basement setup, I made a decision. Karen might think she'd won this battle, but she had no idea the war she just started. Mike, I whispered. You know this isn't right. It's just temporary, he mumbled, rolling over. Temporary, I repeated, bitterness coating the word. Like the last 3 times Amy needed temporary help. But this time was different. This time she'd messed with my kids. And nobody messes with my kids. 3 weeks, that's all it took for Amy to completely take over our house. It started with the bedroom, then the upstairs bathroom, then the kitchen. She treated the place like her personal bed and breakfast, with Karen as the overly involved manager. Julie, Amy needs her protein smoothie before yoga, Karen chirped one morning. I glanced over at Amy lounging on my couch, scrolling her phone, while my kids tiptoed around their own home like unwelcome guests. Jack stopped inviting friends over, not that I blamed him. It's hard to host Nintendo tournaments in a basement that smelled like old gym socks. Emma's grades were slipping too. I can't sleep, she whispered one morning, dark circles under her eyes. The furnace growls all night, and the basement's too cold. She hesitated before adding, Jack keeps crying, but he doesn't want Daddy to know. That's when I started the Karen Chronicles, a detailed log of every incident, complete with evidence. Videos of Amy screaming at the kids for making noise during her meditation. Screenshots of Karen's texts demanding organic groceries for Amy's healing journey. Photos of my children's belongings shoved into corners to make room for Amy's essential oil diffuser collection. The breaking point came when I found Emma's favorite stuffed unicorn in the trash. It was cluttering up the hallway. Amy shrugged, not even looking up from her vision board. Isn't she too old for toys anyway? I marched straight to Karen, who was reorganizing my pantry without permission. This ends now. The kids moved back upstairs today. Don't be ridiculous, Karen snapped. Amy needs stability right now. Stability? What about my children's stability while your 40-year-old daughter plays spiritual guru in their bedroom? I'm 32, Amy shrieked from the living room. Julie, Karen's voice went icy. I don't like your attitude. Michael and I have already discussed this. Discussed what? Mike appeared in the doorway, and for once, his timing was perfect. Mom's been making decisions about our house again, I said, holding up Emma's rescued unicorn. Did you know Amy threw this away? It's just a toy, Karen began, but Mike cut her off. That was Emma's birthday gift from Grandpa Tom before he passed, he said, his voice suddenly firm. Something shifted in Mike's face. Mom, we need to talk about boundaries. Boundaries? Karen gasped, as though she never heard the word before. I'm trying to help your sister. I didn't raise you to be so selfish. No, Mike said quietly. You raised me to let you control everything. But this is my family too. My kids matter. Karen's face cycled through several shades of purple before she finally snapped. Well, I never. Amy, pack your things. We're leaving. But my yoga routine, Amy whined. Now. They stormed out, Karen swearing we'd regret our attitude. But watching the kids' faces light up when we told them they could move back upstairs, I knew the only thing I regretted was not standing up to her sooner. I'm sorry, Mike said that night, scrolling through my documented evidence. I didn't realize how bad it had gotten. It's not over. I warned him. You know your mother, she's just regrouping. He nodded, looking like the partner I'd needed all along. Then we'll be ready. The calm lasted exactly 2 days. This time, Karen came armed with blueprints and a contractor. Since you're so concerned about space, she announced, waltzing into our kitchen during breakfast, I found the perfect solution. We'll add an in-law suite over the garage. Amy can have her own entrance. Mike choked on his coffee. Mom, we can't afford. Oh, don't worry about money. Karen spread the plans across the table, over our breakfast dishes. I talked to Bob at the bank. You have plenty of equity to refinance. My stomach dropped. I'd seen Karen cornering Mike outside his office the other day. Now I knew why. Actually, I cut in. We've been talking to our financial advisor about the kids' college funds. No extra loans. Karen's eyes narrowed. Education is important, but family comes first. Amy needs to grow up. The new voice made us all jump. Tom, Mike's dad, stood in the doorway looking grimly amused. Karen, you're doing it again. I'd never seen Karen speechless before. It was beautiful. Tom, you can't just walk in, she sputtered. Like you do? He raised an eyebrow. Sit down, Karen. We need to talk about Amy's temporary stays with Jessica, David, Marie, and Steve, and why none of them speak to us anymore. 3 families, Karen, Tom continued, his voice weary. You've driven away 3 families with this routine. I'm protecting my daughter. You're crippling her, Tom shot back, and I won't let you destroy another family. After they left, Karen practically dragging Amy away from her plans for a meditation garden. I called my best friend, Sarah. Record everything, Sarah advised, her lawyer instincts kicking in. Tom's testimony, the refinance scheme, everything. If Karen tries anything legal, we'll be ready. That evening, Tom returned alone, bringing photos, text messages, and financial records exposing Karen's schemes. I should have stopped this years ago, he sighed. But Karen's very good at making you doubt yourself. Not anymore, I said, adding his evidence to my collection. We're ending this cycle. Together, we spent hours building an airtight case. Karen had been hiding Amy's trust fund, keeping her dependent, and had even submitted loan paperwork in Mike's name, thankfully flagged by the bank. When do we confront her? Mike asked, both scared and determined. Family dinner, Tom suggested. She won't expect it there. She always uses public settings to control reactions. Perfect, I said, thinking of the group text Karen had sent that morning, demanding we host Sunday dinner to discuss the renovation. Let's give her exactly what she wants, an audience. Sarah helped us prepare our presentation, and Tom rallied the extended family members Karen had burned before. Even our kids contributed, bravely agreeing to share how their basement exile had affected them. Sunday was coming. Karen thought she'd be pressuring us into her plans. Instead, she was walking into her own reckoning. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just exposing the truth. It's letting someone build the stage for their own downfall. Sunday dinner started exactly as Karen had planned, except for the unexpected guests. She froze in the doorway, her eyes widening at the sight of Uncle David, Aunt Jessica, Cousin Marie, and her husband Steve, all seated in our living room. "What are they doing here?" she hissed at Mike. "Family meeting, right?" I said sweetly. "You always say family comes first." Tom stood beside the TV, where we'd set up our presentation. Karen's face went pale when she saw the renovation blueprints, not just hers, but 3 identical sets from other homes. "Before we discuss your plans," I began, "let's review some family history." The next 30 minutes were brutal. David described how Karen's temporary arrangement had cost them their savings. Jessica showed pictures of their gutted house, abandoned mid-renovation when they finally broke free. Marie's voice trembled as she detailed the refinancing scheme that nearly cost her family their home. "This ends now," Mike said, standing tall and facing his mother. "No more renovations. No more manipulating Amy's life. No more controlling our family." "How dare you?" Karen shrieked. "Everything I've done was for family." "Amy needs to hear the truth," Tom interjected, pulling out a folder of documents. "Tell her about the money, Karen, the account you've been managing since she was 18. Amy's head snapped up. "What money?" The room went silent as Tom explained. "The inheritance from her grandmother. The trust fund that could have funded Amy's independence years ago. The account Karen had kept safe while pushing Amy from relative to relative." "Mom?" Amy's voice was barely a whisper. "Is this true? I wanted to protect you." Karen sobbed, her voice shaking. "To keep you close. To keep me dependent," Amy corrected, her expression hardening as she saw the pattern for the first time. "I'm 32 years old, Mom. Living in my niece and nephew's bedroom because you convinced me I couldn't survive on my own." Karen left our house for the last time that night, alone. Amy moved in with Tom, who helped her access her trust fund and find a therapist. Last I heard, she was taking coding classes and healing from years of engineered helplessness. The kids spent an entire weekend redecorating their room. Emma's unicorn collection grew with new additions from every family member who came to celebrate. Jack's space posters multiplied until they covered nearly every inch of the walls. The sound of their laughter upstairs was better than any revenge. Mike still struggles sometimes. Years of conditioning don't disappear overnight. But he's in therapy too, learning to recognize manipulation and stand firm against it. As for Karen, she's lost her power, her audience, and her ability to hurt anyone else. The family she wronged stay connected through a group chat, sharing updates and supporting one another. Sometimes the best revenge isn't something you do to someone. It's finally permanently stopping what they've been doing to everyone else. This story has ended, but it raises an important question. At what point should adult children be cut off from family support? Karen enabled Amy's dependence for over a decade. But where's the line between helping someone through hard times and creating harmful patterns of helplessness? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this tale of family drama and justice served, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories exploring complex family dynamics. And remember, sometimes the hardest part of helping someone is knowing when to stop.